Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Darker Tendations podcast. I am your host, Victor, and I have a special guest with me today,
Hi,
Nathan.
Nathaniel. Yes, I'm going to be the special co-host for today.
Yes. And we have three lovely actresses slash models um, from, of Indonesian and Malaysian descent or Southeast Asian descent. We have a really unique kind of lineup because there is the Malay Indonesian diaspora. We have one actress that was raised in the United States, another one raised in Europe, primarily in Germany, and also one raised in Malaysia slash Singapore, right? And did a lot of work in Indonesia. So I think it's going to be an interesting take and perspective of the film industry and how it is in other parts of the world. So the first and foremost, I want to introduce our three guests. We have Madeleine Miyoko. We have Anetta Hartono and Jasmine Suraya Chin. Can you share the story of how you guys started in acting? What sparked your interest in pursuing a career in this film industry? And if there's any significant moments or people that heavily influenced you guys?
Um, so, my first memory of wanting to act was I was 8 years old, and it's just something I was so sure about at such a young age for all of my life, even though I actually ended up being too shy to start as a kid. So I ended up actually starting a lot later. I started at 18, which is a little bit late for entertainment industry. Um, and I think at that same time when I was 8 years old, when I was going around telling everybody I wanted to be an actress, my mom took me to my first musical, which was The Lion King, one of the best. Yeah, at the Pantages here in Los Angeles. So I think something about, I don't know, something clicked there, seeing the expression jump off of the stage. And if anyone hasn't seen The Lion King on Broadway or at the Pantages or somewhere, is really, really inspiring. So yeah, I think that's what sparked it for me. And yeah, I started acting class at Manhattan Actor Studio in Manhattan Beach. And my mentor there, Billy Gallo, has really been such an role model for me and like what to expect in the industry in all ways, besides just learning how to act for film. He kind of just prepares us as little business people as well, knowing how to represent ourselves and how to take care of ourselves in the industry. So he's been a huge help and mentor for me so far.
I think that's the beauty of acting is that you can start anytime. You could even be a senior citizen and start, and it still wouldn't be considered late because there's many roles for everyone, right? When you feel you're ready, I think that's when it's a good time to start. So
Yeah, exactly. That something about turning, I guess, 18 and, searching up my own acting classes and vetting them out, seeing which ones were the right place. And I think I knew that there were a lot of like scams and stuff out there in Los
mm,
Angeles. So I got really lucky with, such a lucky mentor. He really cares about us. Yeah, and I think you're 100% right. And I find those people really inspiring when like I'm feeling a little hard on myself, like Ken Jeong, who like started when he was 50 and he already was a doctor and everything. So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, you're definitely right for sure.
I was supposed to become a doctor. I studied medicine for 4 years, and um, after 4 years, I just decided to follow my heart. Thanks to the practice of yoga and meditation, I was so connected to my to my intuition and my bravery, and then it was finally time for me to go the path of modeling first, which was always my dream. And I became really successful suddenly and was traveling around the world. And there was a time when I was living in London. I'm actually German, but at some point I was living in London and it was not working well with the jobs, modeling jobs. And I've met another friend, model friend, who told me she's going to acting classes. And that's when the idea popped up that I could do it with my free time. And in my first acting class, I rediscovered my passion for acting. And then I realized that as a child, I actually always wanted to act. It was just so far away, like a impossible dream, because my parents never supported me in
Mm.
like my creativity, and that was never a possibility for me. So I pushed it away so far away, but actually then I remembered that it was always my dream. And then I kept modeling, I kept traveling, and I had really good waves where I realized that even the biggest jobs I had were not enough for me. I didn't want to be that model that doesn't speak. I wanted to be in the spotlight more. And that's when I realized I need to do something. And it just organically happened when the time is right. Like not really like by pushing it, but at some point I landed in LA, and then obviously that's the place to to start with acting, because the people are here, the creators are here. I'm at the source of creation, I would say, and a big dreamers. I'm really grateful that I just trusted in life and followed my heart, and day after day, just a path unfolded in a way.
Very nice. And then Jasmine, how did you get into acting?
Hi, everybody. Hi. Well, I started sort of performing when I was young, but to be honest, I mean, I sort of always glamorized, I think, acting. And I grew up watching a lot of Hong Kong films with my late dad. And
Mm.
I think for me, like the version of acting is Gong Li on a red carpet. That's yeah, that's how I, like those iconic figures. It's like, oh my God, I want to try acting too, which is obviously I think any acting seniors or acting teachers would be like, oh my God, you're in it for glam. But yeah, I mean, I was young, and I guess that was what, sort of like took my heart. But I studied political science and economics, and I enjoyed it. I never actually thought I wanted to be an actress. In fact, I hated auditions because I remember when I was in college and I was going for a commercial audition, and I had to, be very, you have to put like your makeup and everything, and you have to do all the smile, sad, whatever. And I hated it. And I was like, thank God I'm not studying, like I'm no longer in that field. And then so I wanted to do broadcast journalism. But at the time, my skin was very bad. So I went back to my hometown to fix my skin. And so I worked at a local newspaper and for about a year and a half. And my friend there, he was like, he enrolled me in a reality show. And yeah, I know. How I got started was super, super, you know. Long story short, I did 3 reality shows before I actually went into, yeah, in order for me to get into entertainment. Because I remember when I was writing, I think at a halfway point before I quit, I was the youngest, and I was the only female at my desk because I was doing business reporting. So it wasn't like lifestyle or everyday. It was more like business reporting. And I was like looking at all these old men. Most of them were in their 30s, 40s, and I was like, I don't really want to be like that. I felt like I had potential, but I wasn't using. But I didn't know what potential was that. But I felt like I had to release something. And so I guess that reality show, which I had to move from my hometown. I come from Sarawak, Borneo anyway. So it's like 2 hours flight from capital. So because that was such a fast shift, because I had to quit my job on the same day as I got accepted into the reality show. So that was a very quick and slicey decision, I guess. That sort of like, okay, this is it. I'm leaving, I guess you can say, corporate life and going into entertainment. So that was my first shift into entertainment. But I guess, and then I think Victor agrees with me, in Malaysia, Indonesia, even Singapore, or even a lot of parts of Southeast Asia, you don't have the kind of support system that you have in America or even in UK. I'm not sure what is it like in Europe, but over there, I mean, over here, because I'm in Malaysia now, like for like a week. Um, you don't have actors access, you don't have casting platforms, you don't have casting directors workshops, you don't really have film festivals, you don't. And even the film festivals, it's mainly for the big guys, right? So, and over here in LA, like you have all these mini short film festivals where you can go and you can network and stuff like that. And you can just randomly submit for actors access, but not over here in Southeast Asia. So my road into acting was very, like that because, and at the time it was 2013, there wasn't social media. It wasn't so active over there. I mean, in Malaysia. So really, like I had to watch a drama series on TV and wait till the ending credits to look for agencies looking for extras.
Wow.
And I would Google them, and that was how I would do all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah, and then I was a TV host for football for like nearly 4 years. Anything that could get my name out there. So not really specifically acting. I think as long as I could get my name out there, that was the most important thing. So along the way, I got a couple of lucky breaks, and then I decided that, I wanted to do acting because I worked in a film festival because I thought I could meet people, in film industry. At the time, there was nothing, like zero coming in for me. So I was like, let me work as a coordinator for a film festival. And that's when I got exposed to like, I guess you can call it independent cinema. And I was watching a lot of really good films from Southeast Asia. It was the ASEAN Film Fest. And I was like, oh my God, I felt really, I don't like to say the word connected or inspired. I just felt like, I want to do this. Oh my God, I want to do this. I was excited. And yeah, enrolled in a local acting school in Malaysia. You do it. I did everything. I did extras. I did everything. I crashed a wedding to meet a producer. I did everything, whatever that could get me on screen, I did it. So yeah. So it was very topsy-turvy for me. It wasn't a straight road. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
That is okay. That is quite. It's my heart dropped. I have to call you on it, Jasmine. When you said old man, you said 40s. I was like, oh, my heart
No,
really
but see,
dropped
at the
because
time,
I
at
mean,
the time,
I was like, is that considered
no,
old?
I know.
When you said old men, I'm thinking like 50s, 60s, 70s. When you
No,
said
did
30s and
somebody?
40s, I was like, well, what does that make me then?
I know, but at the time,
I'm kidding. Yeah.
at the time, I was like 20. I was really fresh off the boat from my university, and I
Mhm.
was like, they're 21 years old, 22 years old, and I was the youngest, the only female, and and they were like, this guy, my friend, he's lovely, he's bald, he's complaining about his. I wouldn't say, I hope he's not watching, complaining about life and everything. And the one opposite me is like coughing and everything, having like back pain issue. And I'm like, that is amazing. And I was the one sent on the road to cover stuff because they were too lazy to get off their desk. So yeah, but and then I realized, I mean, I liked what I did, but I just felt that I didn't want to end up. I don't know, I just felt something was empty and missing. And then I realized that I've always liked to perform. But the more and more I got into the acting industry and I realized, oh my God, honey, it's so far away from performing. You're not supposed to perform. Acting is not performing. And I always love to be big and extra and like, and stuff like that. But acting is so condensed, it's so inward. And for me, I guess it's a love and hate relationship because it's a lot of self critique when you feel like you don't nail a scene or when you feel like, oh, I should have done that, and you see other people doing it so effortlessly. And it's really a lot of, I must say, a lot of self critique. And I admire people who are still in the acting industry after so long because wow, it's a lot of more like motivation and strength that you gotta have. And anybody who wants to get into the industry, I will look at them and say, really think 10 times, but do it for the experience. But wow, it's a lot of Yeah, I don't think I've ever felt more like beaten down as much. Like I think uh, in terms of self-confidence and doubt, as much as I when I'm in the
So I
industry.
just want to tell you guys that you guys have very like interesting backgrounds. Like it's
Yeah.
so unique and it's like, oh, that's very interesting because I'm also an actor. So like the way I was brought up into this industry was more just like a I'll give it a shot type of thing. But the fact that you
Mm.
guys all have like that strive to be in the entertainment industry is very inspiring. Being an actor comes with its own set of challenges, but balancing your career with other aspects of life, whether it be family, cultural expectations, or living between different worlds, it can be particularly tough. What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced in your journey, and how do you navigate them?
It really hits a nerve. My parents that I do really love, they sort of abandoned me because of the choice of mine to follow this path, like really drastically, um, saying that I would love them, that I would bring like shame in the family. Like for months, I would receive like letters as a daughter and that I would love them. And it's been so hard, especially for me, where family is so, so important. But I just needed to be truthful to my heart, and I just could see myself in that profession because this is what makes me happy. Like all the modeling and the acting, like being in front of the camera, that's like my path next to teaching yoga, which is a beautiful balance that I bring like into my life. And which I feel is important, especially in the beginning of a career as an actress. But I feel like for my parents, it's extremely hard because of the cultural pressure. Um, they just really think that everybody in Indonesia, like their whole family, thinks really badly about me and about them. And this guilt, or not this guilt, but this fear, this shame is so deep. And it's really because of the culture and because they have been raised. Um, like the fact that parents are always right and when children have their own will, like it's an act of failure. And also that academics are super important and you need to study and become a doctor or a lawyer and doing this, and this is all because of the how they have been raised. So this has been by far the biggest challenge, and I'm so grateful that I have all my techniques of like meditation and connecting to my heart, that I know who I am, and even though the ones that have created me tell me all this terrible stuff, I just know where my heart is and why I'm doing this. So yeah, that is really important for me to say that this is a really big sacrifice that I'm doing.
Yeah. Wow. I mean that in itself is tough. Especially I'm always factoring some of you guys are coming from a different country to come here to pursue your dreams. And
Yeah,
in a sense, that's even extra extra burden that
yeah,
you're going in without any support
that's
from your
true.
loved ones. But in the meantime, you have again your family in yoga, as you said, modeling as well, and also you're building that film
I mean,
family as
I'm definitely luckier compared with Anetta. Like my parents are huge supporters of me. I don't know if because being an only child helps, because I think like my mom, she had cancer, so for her, happiness is the most important thing. Like she never wanted me to be the best because being the best comes with stress, and she never wants me to be in the kind of stressful situation that she was in that got her really sick at one point. So I guess I didn't really have to carry the burden of, like what Anetta has been carrying. And I think I can only imagine. So I guess the challenge for me has always been, uh, I think, how am I going to navigate through the industry? And also finances, because I come from Malaysia, so it's extremely expensive, for me to come from Malaysia to LA, and LA is very expensive. So I made the and everybody thought I was actually crazy because I have a career going in Malaysia, but I sort of like I just left. I sold everything in order for me to fund my trip, to America. So like I sold my car and everything and stuff like that. But also I didn't really see a point in keeping something that depreciates. So I guess it's just how do I make the most out of all that I've gave up, right? So I could not have a commitment back home in my country, and then I cannot be with my family also when they sort of need me. Like my mom just had her brain surgery, but I was in LA, so I couldn't really fly to see her when she was having the surgery or like be there. So she had to like pay people to like actually accompany her to the hospital and everything. So yeah, I guess that's sort of like the challenge. But I think the most, because I feel like also in this industry, I don't think it is enough to just be an actor. I think that is also the main challenge, is that if I feel like if you're super lucky, if you're super talented, then yes, you will get continuous offer, or you meet the right people in your life that really, in Chinese they call it 贵人, like your savior, that really, either, guide you towards like a mentor or whatever. But a lot of us we cannot really depend on that sort of luck. So I think the challenge for an actor is, yes, you can audition, you can, go like continuously improve your craft, but we all know like for one audition, you have, like 1,000 people applying for it, and sometimes it's not so much about talent. It's about right. It's about looks. It's about just oh, you're right for the role. So you're talking about like a 1% chance, and I think that's a challenge of becoming an actor. Apart from keeping yourself alive, paying bills, and everything. So and then obviously like 5 years, 10 years down the road, you obviously will be thinking what's the next thing, or like you can't just keep auditioning and waiting for stuff to happen, but that's basically putting your life on the hands of fate. So I think the challenge for an actor also is like, well, what is next? What else can I do where I could have more control, or have a certain kind of like write the story or something, like write the narrative for your life, in the sense that you control rather than wait for offers. So I think that's the challenge. Yeah, apart from finances, that's very important, money. Mm.
Yes, and again, speaking of sacrifices, in this industry, especially when you're making your way through, finances is the one thing that you are sacrificing. I always call this a high risk, high reward industry. You don't know when you're going to get the next project. You don't know when you're going to get the next audition even. So in the meantime, like you have to make certain sacrifices. You have to look for other ways of income. But the only that kind of drives, like you guys said, is your passion and love for it. Otherwise, you guys wouldn't be where you're at right now. So
But I also like want to add that I feel like not just people trying to get into the acting industry or trying to get job like at the low level, but I feel like even at the mid and even at the top tier level actors, everyone's always looking for the next thing. Take for example, if you're like Tom Cruise, money may not be a problem, but obviously what your next work, you're always thinking of something, a better project, a better script, and I think that's a challenge that I feel. Uh, Apart from finances aside, like you're always thinking for the next thing.
Definitely what Jasmine touched on for sure. Finances, especially kind of where like I did acting class and whatnot. It wasn't something that was relatable to like people I was around, that I had to work. I've been working since I was 14 and trying to balance that with like getting an audition like late at night, and then you have to, it's due by 9 a.m. the next morning, but you're scheduled for work, and trying to, you can't always just give up shifts, and I think that sometimes people wonder like, why can't you just do it like full force all the time? Like, why just do all the auditions you can, go to all the callbacks you can, but it's just not realistic a lot of the times for a lot of people. So yeah, definitely financially, but also, I think also you brought in like stress and whatnot. I think balancing or trying to navigate such a like you said, like a niche career and like a 1%, while also like facing struggles with mental health and stuff like that. And it's interesting because those are kind of the things that fuel your art at the same time, but it's also the things that can hold you back as well. So, going through life experiences and whatnot, trying to figure out how to use that for your art in a positive way and not let it take you down a dark path of, and kind of giving up on that dream as well. But I've also like with the stress of finances, and I kind of took a break from acting for a year. And as I think a lot of people do with like all of their careers, but I think definitely as actors, we maybe once or twice, even a few times in our career, we're kind of like, do we even want to do this anymore? And I think my first time doing that was, one of them was because of finances, and feeling like, oh, I need to get this job, I need to book this job. And something my acting coach always says is, if you walk into that room with desperation, they're going to smell that from a mile away. And it was just got really stressful because it did feel like, okay, I'm giving up the shift, or I'm giving up an audition. Okay, which one do I choose to do? But then it's like, I need to get this role to supplement the shift I just missed out on. So that was one of the things. And then the other thing was actually the fact that I didn't really fit into any sort of ethnic box that I think Hollywood is used to seeing. I was kind of always told that I was going to go after Hispanic and Latino roles, and because that's just kind of what I look like to people. And that's what I've kind of always struggled with my whole life, is a little bit of an identity crisis because I am mixed. So not really knowing like who I represented culturally as far as physically. And I just didn't really agree with going after roles that weren't of my background, because I didn't feel right representing someone else's story. So that was another big thing I struggled with, and I talked with actors and my acting coach with all the time, of just like, people would say, well, it's a job, like it's work, and trying to figure out, okay, yes, it's work. This is what I do for a living. I'm an actor, but also it just didn't always align with my morals. So I'm trying to figure that out as well, because I wouldn't really fit into the East Asian box, and there aren't many Southeast Asian roles. And then also, I didn't feel right representing the roles that I did look like to people. So that was like a big internal struggle I had morally. And so, yeah, that was one of the reasons why. Those are like the two: finances and kind of just not feeling like I fit the boxes that were there. Kind of just made me feel like, okay, I need a break. I need to think about this. Don't know if I'm fitting in here. Felt like everyone else had their, finances taken care of, had their rent taken care of, so they can go out and chase their dreams. And then, also being in a certain area that I grew up with, they had roles that fit them and, made sense to them. So yeah, a little bit little bit of an internal battle there for sure.
So I feel like if you want to be an actor, you really just gotta be like, okay, I'm gonna be unemployed 99% of the time. Let me be smart about it. I'm not gonna get money from acting. I'm only doing it because I want to do it, right? For whatever reason it is to you, it doesn't matter as long as, it's something that you feel is justifiable. And I feel like don't take it too seriously. I think anything you do in life, it just has to be sustainable to you. Don't do something that I feel like you have to be consistent in something in order to be good in it, and it has to be sustainable for you. And if you're not gonna be consistent in it, I just don't see why someone wanted, right? Then you can only see result. But yeah, go in with a light heart and feel, oh yeah, I got rejected. Oh my God, yeah, laugh at it. So yeah.
I think that like that was the thing that I forgot was that like my acting coach always says, with like saying they can smell the desperation from a mile away. It's like that's not your job. Your job isn't to get the role. Your job is to go in there and have fun. And I forgot the fun part of it. And finally now, like coming back to acting after taking about a year off, like I'm reminded of exactly like what Jasmine's saying. We do it because we love it, and it for any job that you have, like whatever industry you're in, like you should be having fun, you should be enjoying it and loving it at the end of the day. And yeah, but you are right that like we're just doing it for fun and 99% unemployed. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
Well, there's a lot of people that are still unemployed, but they still do boba every day. Just saying. So it doesn't stop them from drinking boba every day,
Yeah.
despite them not having any money. But that I think that's a Californian thing. But
I need to learn financing from them.
really, I think you'll be even more broke if you did that.
Oh, okay. I'll learn to be in debt. Yeah.
Kind of going back to what you all talked about, I hear, I guess, two common denominators. One, I want to touch up on what Anetta was saying. Community is your family, fellow actors, and whoever's has a support for you. Yeah, it doesn't have to be blood related, but I think if there's a sense of community within your circle that supports your dream, I think even a speck of it that would, jumpstart, your desires to become an actress or on your way there, right? And the other one is sacrifice. I think in all aspects of life, all three of you, all of us, you guys made a move to come to America, selling your car back home and come here, and even juggling between work, shifts, and everything. That's a big old sacrifice, even with family members too, being away from them, being distant or even detach yourself from them. I mean, everyone has a different background, but I think what I hear from all of you is those two, like the sacrifices you've done, and wherever you are right now, family is your community. Well, community is your family, pretty much. But also going to what Madeleine was saying, leading to this next question is the duality of navigating between two worlds. For those who identify as Indonesian American or Southeast Asian, how do you balance your cultural heritage with the demands of the global film industry? Do you feel a responsibility to represent your culture in your roles, or is this something that comes naturally?
I've definitely struggled with that because I am part Okinawan, part Indonesian, and so I'm just kind of like a mush of things people have never seen before, at least like where I grew up. And where I grew up, I didn't have any Indonesian role models besides my immediate family, and even they lived far away from me. And so I'm like very grateful because I grew up in such a melting pot of a community and a culture. And that's kind of where that like identity crisis comes in, because I grew up in, you know, a few different cultures. Since I didn't really have much family here, I was kind of taken in by other families. And so that's kind of where I get pushed into those like, oh, well, this is what you look like. This is what you grew up around. Like, just go with that. But at the end of the day, like I did grow up with like my grandparents and my family, and I just, even if I'm familiar with it, I don't feel right representing it. And I think that the demands for Indonesian Americans or Southeast Asians aren't quite there. They're not quite demanding. They are definitely coming up, as I'm seeing very slowly and surely, far and few between. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have quite found a balance, because it ended up being one of the reasons why I felt like I needed to take a break. So yeah, maybe that's a little bit of a different question because I am mixed. But I do feel like I do feel like I look pretty Indonesian. I look just like my mom, but growing up, like people didn't even know what Indonesia was. I would say, oh yeah, I'm Indonesian, and they'd be like, what? Where? And I just got so tired of explaining it that I would nobody's ever assumed what I actually am my entire life. I don't think a single person has ever been able to guess what I am. And so it just got so exhausting after so long that I would just be like, sure, yeah, I'm whatever you think you want me to be. I've had people fight me on it before and like not believe what I am. So yeah, I feel like since I didn't have that around me growing up, and especially that being something that I struggled internally with as an actress, not seeing those roles available for me, I do have I feel like I have a lot of responsibility, because there wasn't really anyone I could relate to growing up specifically. Of course, there's a lot of like mixed kids and kids who felt out of place, but yeah, growing up, I didn't even have family here, and then especially in film, and especially feeling like, oh, there's no place for me in film. Yeah, I definitely want to be able to do that for the next generation for sure, so they don't have to question.
Outside of the film industry, Madeleine, are you familiar with or are you getting into the Indonesian cultural heritage? Are you surrounded by it? Are you interested in kind of like getting to know, or are you familiar with anything of like, I don't know, traditional dances or anything like that culturally?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always been interested. I am the youngest, and my grandparents unfortunately passed away when I was younger. So I didn't get too much experience with them, and I'm second gen. My grandparents immigrated here. So there's a bit of a disconnect for sure than being like first gen. But I shared this story with Victor that like in my second grade class, I believe we had like a cultural representation day, and I grew up around a lot of Japanese Americans, and I'm part Japanese, part Indonesian, and I was like, oh, I don't know which one to choose, and my teacher was like, oh, well, we have plenty of like Japanese representation, like why don't you do Indonesian? And that was the first time where I felt like I was learning about my culture, and I felt I had like my little batik skirt and my little paper doll that looked like me, and that was like the first time I was very proud, being so disconnected from my culture. But again, being the youngest and I've always wanted to feel a lot more connected to my grandparents. Even though I was like very young, I was always like wanted to be in the kitchen with my oma and cooking and learning her recipes. And I would call her all the time, try to pick up the language. But yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have enough time with them on both sides. But yeah, I am taking it upon myself now for sure to try to learn as much as I can. And I think to answer your question about am I surrounded by that culture, I still think no. I'm still kind of in the same area that I grew up in, and yeah, no, I didn't I didn't grow up around any Indonesians, so yeah, but I think meeting Victor was like I've met a couple. I've only met like a few other Indonesians in my entire life outside of my family, and Victor is one of them. And so yeah, I'm slowly finding them. You guys are telling me y'all are out there. So I just have to maybe look a little harder, but not where I grew up particularly. I grew up actually more in an Okinawan culture. So yeah. And yeah, Gardena, so a lot of Okinawan Japanese culture here.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
So the representation of Southeast Asian actors in Hollywood and global cinema has evolved over the years. How do you guys feel about the current state of representation for Southeast Asian actors, not just in Hollywood, but globally as well too?
So my first impulse is to say that I'm really grateful that I'm living in a time where globalization is happening and we're mixing cultures, because I don't think I would have a chance like 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Me looking like that and having a German accent, would be so weird. And it's still difficult, but still there are chances, and I believe I'm really optimistic and positive that the chances will grow. And I feel also pretty much detached from my Indonesian heritage or culture, even though I'm 3/4 Indonesian and I'm really happy and proud to be born in Indonesia. And I'm 1/4 German. Mostly I feel, because of all the traveling that I've done, I guess I feel very home and just belonging to so many places of this world, and I just feel like I'm a citizen of this earth, literally. And I subconsciously, or not subconsciously, but energetically sent that out, I guess, because the roles that I would get are mostly ethereal beings like angels or sirens or tiger lily, like all these mystical figures that have no definition. Yeah, that's my honest answer. I'm pretty much out of the box here.
I think the term Asian has been lumped into one, which is, oh, as long as there's an Asian person, we've fulfilled a certain criteria, right, for the studios, for whoever that's making the film. And literally, I feel that what they're saying, like, I mean, and their version of Asian is technically like, oh, Japanese and South Koreans. That is it, right? So they forgot to also notice that, hey, there are a lot of other ethnic groups, and stuff like that. It's just that they tend to only pick what is very familiar to them, and that has been the wave of South Korea, and of course, like the rise of China, and we've got Hong Kong films, and we got people like Wong Kar-wai who made really good films, and that's oh my god, Hong Kong films. Oh, okay, as long as we have someone from like East Asia, oh, that's Asian already. So, but obviously there's a lot of other parts of Asia, that is unfortunately not represented enough. But I mean, I'm also trying to see from their perspective. It's what's like whoever's putting in the money, the studios and whatever. It's what is selling, right? I guess if we really want to be represented, I think it needs to also come from the country itself, right? I feel that it really starts from like for example, like Indonesia, they making their own good stories. That is, and now there's just so many platforms for film festivals are one thing, that really pushes, that really it's a platform to showcase voices from like every different part of the world, and the fact that they're celebrating it and they're pushing for that. So I think it also comes from the support of the government and the people at the top in their country itself, because there is no way that American Hollywood would really take Asia seriously until South Korea really brought their K-pop wave. It's basically like an export of soft power that's literally Hollywood, right? That's why we look at Hollywood as this amazing thing, because yeah, they're exporting that, they're exporting their culture. And South Korea noticed that, and they were supporting, they were exporting their culture out. And then you've got a huge Asian community in America that's fighting for representation, for equality, to be on the same footing as all the other races. So I think for us, then it also comes to us to also put in the effort to say, look, I want that seat at the table too. So I gotta put in my own effort. I gotta make good stories. I gotta make people notice my talent. I gotta put in the work, gotta put in the money. Yeah. So like an actor, it's the same thing, right? Like we gotta, if you want to be noticed, then you got to do the work. So I think in terms of, I think my version of representation is like that. Yes, we are severely underrepresented, but I also cannot put the blame on one side to say that you're not representing Asian fairly. Maybe because there is no market for that, right? And people see East Asian faces as something very familiar to all Asians, right? So I think it really also needs to come from the community, from the country itself, to like, if we really want to push ourselves on the global stage, then we ourselves really need to make better stories. We really need to push our industry. Then at least the Indonesians or the Malaysians in America or in Europe, then people will look at it, oh my God, I saw that film. Wow, that's amazing, and stuff like that, and keep doing it consistently. Like, I don't think this is a short-term thing where you do one or two and it's not bringing you ROI, and you start thinking, oh, okay, we're not going to do it. I think it's a really, really a long-term game. And I feel that it is something that is worth investing on the part of, the like the countries themselves. Like, yeah, like art, sometimes people see art and people see that it's not really a lucrative industry or something that's like, oh, art, really? It's so intangible. But look at South Korea, look at Hong Kong and China. Like they're really doing, like the film industry is really booming. That's because also there's support, there's money there, right? So yeah, I feel that in that sense, representation has to come in from our own effort, and it's also like it needs a lot of money. So I feel that that is something that unfortunately maybe we don't really have control of because we're not billionaires or whatever, and it's something that is from top to bottom. Yeah. And I hope like film festivals are continuous in their path of celebrating global voices. So yeah.
When the industry mentions Asians, they have a certain like image to them, you know? But if they're trying to look for someone a little more tan, someone who is basically Southeast Asian, that's when they start to put the label of Southeast Asian. They don't really put a label when you're referencing East Asians, you know? I feel like the industry really does just push, that's Asians, you know, like East Asians, they just label them as Asians, and anyone who's like a little tan, a little darker or whatever, a little on the Southeast side, that's when they put the label Southeast Asian. So um I get what it's like, and I think I agree with you, Jasmine, when you say that it's like you can't really fully blame them. You just got to put in the work. And I think when I was first casted in a short film, I was like Burmese, right? Was it
Burmese,
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was like this Burmese person. I've never heard of it before, and I was like, okay. That was the first time where I actually experienced like a project that was um telling a story about a certain ethnicity, you know? And that was something that I didn't really think was really possible because Asians back then where they were just represented in like, I don't know, action films wherever they would just do fights or whatever. And it's like um they didn't really put an ethnicity to an Asian character. And playing as like a Burmese soldier, it was really like, oh, it was really like eye-opening and showed me how diverse the industry is getting now. So I also agree with you, Anetta, how it's like 10 years ago, you wouldn't be able to get certain roles, you know? So now I feel like it's great because with globalization, you can definitely um, diversify the entertainment industry. What has been the most defining moment or project in your career that you feel really helped elevate your visibility as an Indonesian or Southeast Asian actor? And how did that experience shape the direction of your career moving forward?
Well, I can say like I'm at the very beginning of my acting career, so I wouldn't say I have a breakthrough. But from my modeling career, I can say that I did walk in Paris for Balenciaga with Bella Hadid and Kanye West, and Balenciaga is huge in Indonesia. So I was really happy that it got like a little bit like people would say, "Oh, Hartono is an Indonesian name," and I found that really cool that people from Indonesia would like follow me because I really love the idea to show, hey, I'm an Indonesian woman who made it like in Europe, which is I think giving a lot of hope for the people in Indonesia, which I really like. And whenever I would like meet some Indonesian guy in the train somewhere in Germany, I would tell my story, like they would be like, "Whoa, that's so cool!" And I love those little moments when that would happen. Yeah.
That's really cool because I mean you mentioned how you know your family didn't really support you, but realistically, literally what Jasmine said, if you just keep pushing forward, you literally get to a position where you're content with how
Yeah.
you are. So it's really cool because I want to do modeling too. That's like so cool to me. It's just I'm not
No.
that tall, so it's like I can't really when it comes down to like walking down a runway or whatever, I can't obviously do that because I don't really meet their criteria. But that is something that I do find really interesting and I think is really cool. And it proves that, you know, your community is your family and you
Yeah, it
have.
is. But funny that you mentioned height because I was thinking about it that it's difficult for me with my tall height now as an actress because
Mm.
Indonesians are small. Like they wouldn't take me, I guess, because I'm tall. Like there's so many factors, and then I just realized it doesn't make sense to like focus on those things. So I just
Yeah.
really like to think what is possible and to think in possibilities and then meet people that like see my talent no matter how tall I am.
Yeah,
But
100%.
I also think like to add to your concern about height, as a model, um, I just feel like you know social media is at a digital age right now. It's just so different that people and this this whole woke culture, right? But putting that aside, I just feel that because of this, that if you're somebody, you can walk the red carpet. No, sorry, you can walk the catwalk, whatever, fashion for big brands, even if you don't meet the 5'11" or 6 foot criteria, if you're somebody. And I feel that with the digital age, it's not easy, but definitely it is easier than 10 years ago that you can also be a somebody and then you know, and then have brands come after you. Like there is a possibility in that, which I find, I hate social media. I'm not a fan of social media. I'm very lazy, but I also think that the pros of it is that it basically remove a lot of the barrier for people who want to be seen, right? And want to do work. And it's like now you can just do anything and post it and then get traction versus before when the film industry or the entertainment industry is monopolized by a few people who make decisions, and then you have to please a number of people who are in the decision making position or people who can lead you to the decision making position. That's why you have a lot of things happening before, but now it's different because now if you are able to navigate, find your niche and stuff like that, it is not as hard as before to reach to a level of fame or recognition that would have this brand coming to you. I just feel that, but also because of that, there's like a number of quantity. A lot of people are doing that as well. So that is the main challenge nowadays, is that the market is so saturated in that field, that how do you find your niche and your voice and how do you stand out? So I think that becomes the other challenge.
I'm still a baby in the career and in the industry so far as well. So I wouldn't say, well, I would say it has been my most defining moment so far. Especially like I said before, coming back from a break of acting because I felt like I didn't feel right with what I was representing and getting the auditions for. And the first role I got coming back to acting was for Indonesian American in their mid-20s from Los Angeles.
So
that
beautiful.
Yeah, that has been definitely the most defining moment. I think something that I am gonna consider a extremely defining moment for the rest of my career. I think that just shows how things are meant to be, and like when you're ready, like you said, and how things align when they're meant to be. And I think it also it also shows the importance of me like sticking by my morals and my beliefs and who I am. And yeah, I'm very excited for what is to come from that. And regardless of what happens with it, I mean, I know it's going to do amazing, but regardless of what happens with it, I am just so beyond excited and proud to represent my culture and something that I felt like wasn't there for me, at least growing up, and not having that around me and not seeing it in acting roles and auditions. And I'm just so excited and I feel so proud. I am so proud. And I was just so excited for this project, regardless of if I got the part or not. I was just so excited to hear that there was a group of Indonesians coming together to tell an Indonesian story. I didn't care if I was a small role or a supporting role or a day player, like, or if I was even on crew. Like I was like, I want to be there when this happens. I want to be a part of the community. It's what I've been fighting for. It's what I took a break for because I didn't see my community there. And then now it's there, and I'm just so happy for whoever gets to be a part of it. I'm so excited. And this will be a pivotal moment in my career for the rest of my life for sure. And I'm just really excited to represent. Yeah.
So to elaborate on what Madeline was talking about, so just so you know, these three ladies, including Nathan and myself, we're going to do Indonesian American film based in LA. It's still sort of in the pre-production stage, but that's how we're all connected. And I think this is a perfect segue to cap off this interview. What do you guys think it'll take? What do you guys want to see happen? And if you guys have any suggestions on how we can bring about more opportunities for Indonesian and Malaysian roles here in Hollywood.
I think there's a huge movement going on with indie filmmaking right now. I think that the cinema industry has been in a very interesting place for the maybe even the past decade. And I think right now there's a huge movement in indie filmmaking, and I think that also goes hand in hand with what Jasmine was saying about creating those films in those countries, and again having these global film festivals. I think in 5 to 10 years from now, we are going to be lifting these indie films up a lot. And so I think and I hope that we kind of got to start there. And it's, it's unfortunate maybe sometimes that the opportunities aren't being represented or given at the top with the budget and with the people and the crew and the producers and the investors. But I think that's kind of where we are starting. And I think there's people want to create the art and tell the stories that they want to tell and have the representation that they've been missing. And I think this generation is so motivated to just share their art. And I think it starts at indie filmmaking for sure. But I am interested what Jasmine has to say about the government too. That is a very interesting perspective I would love to learn more about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because I just feel that like I think I mentioned earlier, this is a long-term game. This is not a short-term game. And you really need people who have the power to ensure that they will continuously give support. I think you have a lot of people wanting to make good stories. You have a lot of undiscovered talent that are not groomed to be at their potential, right? And when you don't have the kind of right human workforce, you can't create a quality product. I think it's like a business, right? If you have a good product, word of mouth goes around, and then you have to also keep it sustainable. So and you also have to have marketing. You have to have people talking about it, people conversing about it, people realizing, oh my God, that film is so good, and stuff like that. And then they start discovering, oh my God, that other film and the other film and that's where they start building an understanding of the specific culture, the places in, for example, Indonesia and stuff like that. So but it's gonna take time because and you also got to award it to the right kind of people, not just simply saying that like, okay, I'm going to invest a certain amount of money, but that money goes to cronies and stuff like that. And it happens a lot, I guess, in Southeast Asia. So that would be like the top-down approach. But obviously, because people like us, we're not really involved in that sort of, it would be ideal to have that, but that is also not within our control. So I think, like what Madeleine was saying is just to start. So, rather than waiting to write a good story or whatnot, I think what Victor is doing is great. It's just, you just start and you focus on quantity now and trying to get as many people involved and trying to bridge, reach out to Indonesian filmmakers that are in Indonesia, because I do feel like Indonesian filmmaking, in terms of skill level, in terms of quality, is definitely progressing. And because I feel that people in Southeast Asia are still very excited about America, about Hollywood. So, selling from that angle that we are wanting to do, projects here. And I think it's just start and then focus more. I think now, I mean, I know you got to tell a good story, but if you just keep sitting down there waiting for quality, it's just not going to happen so soon. And I think now it's just trying to do as much, quantity, trying to get as much support, and then and keep going at it. I guess I really don't know, because I mean this is something that also requires money, right? And money is obviously one of like the biggest obstacle in doing a film. It's so easy to do a film, to write a script, but who's gonna fund it? So yeah, I think just trying to just keep doing and trying to, I think, not to lose the Indonesian touch in Indonesia itself. I think trying to reach out to them and doing a whole collaboration and stuff like that, that would help. Yeah, it's tough, honestly speaking. I don't have a suggestion for it. Yeah, unless you've got someone who really wants to like fund this venture, right, to really bring Indonesian voices out, then you've got the capital to continuously do better output, hire better writers, or, hire better talent. Then you can create something that's of value, that can be marketable, like marketed, and then, be shown to people and like, oh, wow, and get people talking. But that is obviously like a dream come true. So I think now, at this stage, is just to do however small it is. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
No, 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 that is a really good, that's a good perspective to have, especially you have been acting in Indonesia and Malaysia, and you give a different perspective, especially when it comes to the government, what they can do to help, and what you see as well, to how you compare how it is Indonesian and Malaysian, and what it is here. So that's a really good perspective to have. Anetta, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I would just like to end with my wish for the
Mhm.
industry is to have this really like brave openness to open their eyes to what is society looking now like, and the diversity in it, and to um, be able to um, detach from the old, and to have the bravery for a revolution. And for that we just need to have really like strong personalities that are like really creative and brave with ideas, and just like burst through. And I feel like also it starts with the indie movies and the young people especially. And I'm just hoping, I'm always hoping for miracles and wonder to happen. um yeah.
Yeah, I just hope that, I think one way to get represented more is having more people talk about how good the stories are, and that would really open their eyes towards this whole representation thing, because that is exactly like what South Korea was doing, right? Like even Hong Kong, and so it's good that they're also opening that sort of like very tough gate to open, which is the representation part, like Asian, even though they all lump us into the same pot of bowl. But I feel like the same could be said about whites. I mean, whites, okay, Europe, hey, no, I'm Italian and stuff like that. It's the same thing, like when you really
It's
look at
true.
it,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. But at least, like, the one thing, actually, the one thing good, I feel that the one thing good that we can play off now is that a lot of the attention are towards the East now, in the sense that they think we have money. You know what I mean? Like they
Mhm.
do think that Asians have the money to invest. That is a good angle to like, yeah, the opportunities are in Asia now. You guys should start shooting in Asia, and then coming in as a facilitator for that, right? Like to say, yeah, why don't you bring projects in Asia and stuff like that? But let's get a bankable cast from America, but we shoot it in Indonesia, and then, and stuff like that. Because I feel that a lot of people are getting out of LA to shoot, and things are getting more expensive and everything. And a lot of people are familiar with Asia, but not too familiar with Asia, especially the whites, right? I don't know who's watching this, but
Mhm.
and I guess that's also how I'm trying to bring more American projects also to see the possibility of shooting in Malaysia. And I think it's also very important to talk to the people in charge in the respective countries to say, hey, look, I really, really want to bring this project in, if you can give some support, I can try and get a bankable cast and stuff like that. I think the way is to facilitate, to come in as a facilitator. And yeah, people think Asians have money now, it is a rising continent. And to be honest, I am so happy that I am of this age, in this digital age where the West no longer monopolize entertainment. We are rising, and we are rising at a pace that we're almost at the same level. That it is okay that I feel if talent that we don't make it in America, because I feel that we already have a very strong place in Asian cinema, like world cinema. So it's not like, oh my God, I failed in America. That's it. That's my life gone. I don't think so. But I think in the sense that to get Indonesian represented, maybe, I don't know, to get them to go there instead, right? Rather than trying to bring them here. Yeah, so that would be it.
A very special thanks to Madeleine Miyoko, Jasmine Suraya Chin, and Anetta Hartono for coming on this podcast to share their journey in their acting careers. Also, a special thanks to Andrew and Nathan for helping me co-host this episode. We were on a long hiatus, and this is the first episode back. We have more episodes to come, so please tune in to the Darker Tanned Asians podcast. I'm your host, Victor, signing out. Good night and God bless.